Good evening, folks. We are live and up and running once again. So let me get everything switched over and loaded up, and we will commence today's drawing stream. Alright, I'm going to turn on BGM. We'll leave it about there. I can always adjust it later if necessary. And my camera is falling over. I'll do that. Still don't know why my track display is busted. I might have to talk to some of my peers and find another program. Maybe something I can plug in directly in OBS that'll get my track titles. It just seems that Spotify is busted for some reason and it won't detect the track titles. But we are running through the regular BGM playlist as usual. And so what are we doing today? It's been a hot minute since we were working on Pokemon Infinite Fusion Sprites. I want to say it's been a couple months, maybe? Last time we were working on this, we created the one that I've got on screen now. This is the Sirem Fusion, Scyther, and Curem. I haven't gone back to tweak this one at all. I'm not entirely sure if I want to change anything before I submit this one. I think the main reason why I didn't back when it was done was because I was leaving for my trip last month and I didn't want to submit something for review and I was going to be gone. But I did want to just have this one on the main screen here just as a reminder of what we were working on last time. But we're going to do a new one today. And we'll create a new layer. Hey, Red Dragon's here. What's up, Red Dragon? How are you doing today? Well, welcome to the drawing stream. We are just getting started. Red Dragon says, oh, Twitch didn't tell me you went live. I'm doing okay, thanks. You? I'm doing alright. I can't really complain. It was another busy day at the old Earth job. A lot of meetings. A lot of meetings and calls. Which usually means I don't get a lot of actual work done if I'm stuck on calls, but it's all good. As for why Twitch didn't notify you I went live, not exactly sure why. I did notice that the stream record bot that pings the Discord is not instant. It seems to lag by a few minutes, sometimes even more. And I don't know why it's doing that. But it's all good. We will go ahead and get started. So I want to work on a fusion for Infinite Fusion today. That's a continuation of one we did a while back, before the last one, before Sirem here. Realize what I'm going to probably need to do at some point is the evolution, do Caesar and Curem. We'll worry about that another day. For now, let me see. It should be in the final directory. It was a couple streams ago. I don't remember how many exactly, but one of the ones that was suggested by chat, I don't remember who, possibly Iconic, but the requested fusion was Roserade and Vulpix. The Roserade head, Vulpix body. And this was a pretty simple one that we did back then. And when I looked it up on the Fusion Dex site, which I used to get reference for what people have created in the game. Oh, Red Dragon says, Twitch told me just now. Oh, so it is just lagging a lot. Oh well, at least it worked, I guess. So we created this one on that previous stream, and I remember looking it up. There is a custom sprite for the evolved form of this one, which would be Roserade and Ninetales. Ooh. Sea Red Dragon has redeemed a small and a fact. Let's do the small first. Here, I'll put myself right on top of my tablet. We'll see how long it takes me to remember to take it off. And for fact, of course, I didn't update the list at all since the last time somebody redeemed fact. Alright, let me check the list here. I got one. I just need to make sure I haven't already said it and repeated myself. Okay, alright. I'm going to add this one to the list. I just have to try and slide my keyboard over across my desk. So your true fact about me today is, at my previous job, working in the kitchen, which we've talked about off and on here on the channel, I worked for a vegetarian concept. I was going to say restaurant, but more or less I did vegetarian cooking. That's what I did in my last job. Boy, did I learn a lot about both the food and the people. Let me put this on the list here. I'll save this. I do have some interesting stories from working in that environment. Interesting customer stories for folks who have waded through the trenches of the labor and retail workforce. Some interesting stories stemming from the fact that I was working for said concept, but I wasn't a vegetarian myself, and that really ticked off some people for some reason. Can't imagine why, but it did make some people irrationally upset. Red Dragon says, yeah, I know how customers are. All it takes is for any person, and I encourage anybody to do a stint in the labor sector at some point, to teach empathy and respect for people that work in said environments. It is a good way to build that empathy skill, and I don't regret it. As a result, whenever I'm out and about, since I don't work in that industry anymore, I am as nice as I possibly can be to service people. And if they aren't nice to me, then whatever, I'll go about my day. But I do not harass or make life difficult for people who work in the service industry. They don't deserve it. And I can't speak for other countries specifically, but in this country, they're not paid enough to put up with a lot of the things that they have to. Alright, let's minimize this. So back on track for what we're going to be doing today. We're going to draw the evolved form of that Rose Pix. Even though there's already a custom for it, I want to draw one of my own. And we're going to adapt some of the ideas from that other one into a new one. So we're going to start with references here. And just like before, our base body, in quotes, is going to be the Vulpix line, in this case Ninetales. Okay, we're down here. And we need to combine, here we'll kind of move these a little bit apart so we can see them easier. We need to combine some of the attributes for Roserade here with Ninetales. And I think the best way to do that is one, to start with some of the major design elements like we usually do and line everything out. Once the line art is done and we have all the details, then we'll go in and start coloring and adjusting things like the shading and whatnot. And let me actually pull up. I'm gonna have to flip between chat and my other tabs here. I'm gonna go to the Fusion Dex site and pull up the one that exists now, because I want mine to be noticeably different than the one that's there now, just so it doesn't look like I'm copying the other artist. So let me run a search on that real quick. Rose Raid Ninetales. Rose Tails. This is actually using a different gen sprite too. Either that or... No, I don't think this is custom. I think it's just a different generation. I'm using gen 5? 5? Let me look. Maybe gen 3... I didn't think to check that. This is just the one that I had downloaded from before. I think I was planning on doing this one from the start. Ooh. Let us fix small mode. I actually remembered this time. Alright, where are you? Ninetales is number... Where are you? There you are. That sprite that's currently on the Fusion Dex site as a main alternate sprite for this fusion is Gen 4. The one you see on my screen here is Gen 5. So I'm going to use Gen 5 as well. It's a different pose, so automatically it'll look a little different. But I've got some ideas for how we're going to merge the design elements. So to kind of recap, because again, I know it's been a while since we've done one of these. Main rule, the head of the fusion dictates usually a lot of the head features and a lot of the design features, but primarily the color palette. So just like the Rose Pix one, this one is going to have a mostly green and kind of vibrant floral pattern, just like Rose Raid does, but the edits and main body are going to be on Ninetales. So I need to make sure we're working with the right one. Our dragon ass head fur going to be white. Yep, I already have an idea of what I want to do with the hair. It's going to be similar to the other one in that I want to give it kind of like the swept forward hair from Rose Raid. And to do that, we're going to need to start deleting out some elements on Ninetales. I think it's going to obscure the ear that's facing away from the camera. So what I'm going to do is take the kind of swept back hair that Ninetales normally has. We're going to give this thing a haircut. And I kind of had this idea in my head about what to do with other parts of the fur on the body. But first we're going to start with the head. So let's see, actually, I'm going to put you over here so I can see it. There you go. Just need a reference for the hair. And we're going to start lining all the details in black, and then we'll go and change the color and shade everything once we get there. I'm going to rename this one, so I'll have to keep guessing which layer I'm working on. There we go. And I think because the hair kind of has more volume to it compared to the, at least in the front compared to the regular Ninetales, might delete part of the tail here. We're going to be reworking the whole shape of all the tails anyway, so that's okay. Okay, we'll line that in for now, and then we'll compare and edit things along the way. Because it's been such a long time, I gotta get kind of back into the swing of how I do these. So this one might take a little bit longer than it has in the past, but that's okay. Next, and this is going to be probably the biggest detail change for the design, and I might have to, it's going to be a little bit of an experiment. What I'd like to do is take the tails, and right now there are these kind of floofy, like fox tails, right? Hence the name Ninetales, like that. I want to change these to look more like, whoop, oh, yeah, I hear you. Petals, like flower petals. And rather than turn them into kind of like blossoms, which is what the last one kind of looks like, we took the blossom hands from Roserade and made that little tail tufts on Vulpix. Instead of doing that, because I think that's going to be a little more difficult, I want to have these kind of like unfurled petals that are kind of spiraling out from the Pokemon itself, and that way I can keep the one that's obscuring the legs without having to do the legs. But it's going to cause the pattern around here to be really different. Our Dragon says I might start doing some myself. Yeah, go for it. All you need is a drawing program that can work at the pixel level. That's the challenging part. You could probably configure Psy, which is free, to work at the pixel level. I don't know how, but you probably could. Oh, you have Clip Studio? Yeah, Clip Studio could do it. I just don't know exactly how to set it up. Since I'm using Photoshop, I recommend just looking up a tutorial for how to do pixel art in Clip Studio. I'm sure someone can explain the settings. Okay, we are about to dramatically alter this sprite. And basically, we're going to surgically remove all the tails, except for this one down here. I think I am going to change the shape, but let's keep these here. This is sort of like the anchor point when they attach to the butt. That's important. But everything else, maybe we'll leave this lower one too and just change the shape. All the rest of the stuff is going to go. Oh, are you going to check to see if it's set up, Red Dragon? Okay, let's clear this out, and then I'm going to need to go in here and make sure we don't have stray sections left over. clear out as much of the outline as possible. Oh, okay, the anchor point's gone. That's okay. You can always refer back to the original. Now, my original thought, and I'm gonna have to experiment around to see what makes the most sense. My original thought was to have them sort of spiraling out like this. Maybe a little bit more thin. We can do multiple. Almost like a fan, kind of like a peacock tail. And the original, actually, I was thinking about that. The original has 9 visible tails, doesn't it? I have the original right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yep. Okay, we need to make sure we don't miss any. Right now we've got 7. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. Now we need to clean the lines up and make the actual tails themselves more uniform. And like we've talked about before, as far as the drawing format for these, I am going to have to adjust the line art to match the right shading once we start doing colors. But for now, everything will be lined in black till we make sure all the details are where they need to be. Okay, make sure these smaller ones are following the same pattern. In fact, we're gonna line all the boundaries here in black. Fix this once we start shading things. My initial thought, and actually, where's Rose Raid? My initial thought was to put a texture on each of the tails to make it look more like leaves or petals. Problem is, since we're working at such a small resolution, I don't know if I can do that without making it look visually distracting. Because I can either do a texturing or I can try and use the shading to give it more of a texture, which I think is probably going to look nicer, have less line clutter, but it's going to be difficult because the original Original's got 3 tones: light tone, mid tone, shadow, and then the actual lines all the way around. That's going to be a challenge. All right. So the next thing we need to do is come up with color patterns for the body. And I think I'll start with the main body itself, since we can follow the references from Rose Raid here. Actually, I don't even need this. It's got its palette up here. I made this for when we did the last one, the first form. Let me put it over here for now. So this is the complete color palette for Rose Raid. And I think the best thing to do to start would be to line in the details of the body and then add the color shade. So basically color the entire body here first and duplicate the shading before we work on the tails, which are going to be the unique element here. So let's see. The original's got a lot of black outlines on it, probably because of the shadowing from the tails. So that's all going to stay. First color, dark line art, probably this darkest green here, or forest green. I think we need to go likewise. We're going to match all of the dark tones here. Oh, this must be the other leg. I was looking at what this section is down here. Okay, working backwards. Next lightest shade are these kind of off tan colors. Then we have a mid-tone. I guess we can use this one for the mid-tone. We'll form fill all these sections. It's a bit of dithering here on the neck. Gen 5 sprites seem to be pretty common for the artist to use a dithering effect to vary the shading. Oh, okay, we're gonna have to deal with the tips here. We'll make them uniform for now. Actually, those are going to be different color completely. I'm just going to leave those for now. Those are going to be colored to match the blossoms, the red and the blue. but we'll leave them like that for now. And now we do the light tones. For the eye, it's yellow. Oh no, the eyes are actually the same color as the pink red / red blossoms. Okay, so for those we want to go like this. The yellow comes from the kind of lining around the eyes that sort of functions like a mask, and that's something we did on the last one. And I want to do that again for this one. It's kind of a unique design element. But first, let's add in the hair. Line art for this one, we're going to follow the same exact highlight patterns that the original has, since I have it visible. So the lower quote-unquote shadowed edge is going to look like this. And we might have to I'm going to have to fix the shading on the forehead anyway, so that we don't have this part disappearing. Maybe we'll just keep it black like that. And then there's sections like this. Might have to play around the shades here a little bit. And these pale green-gray colors are for the parts where the light is hitting on the top. Okay. I'll worry about the shading in a little bit for the hair, but I want to add in these yellow highlights. Where is our Roser Picks? This one we need to put in something on the palette. Actually, I won't worry about it. I'll just grab it directly from this one. The darker yellow is not from the original palette. I added that in since we needed to shade it. Okay. Let's go down here. We're just going to jump back and forth. Red Dragon asks, where do you get the Pokemon picks? You mean the original sprites that I'm using to combine these together? Or are you talking about the fusion sprites? Okay, the original ones from the game. I'll link it to you in chat. There's a big compendium site. It's basically an index of all of the Pokemon sprites going back to Gen 1. So what I do is I pull these up here. I pull these up and download them, and I use them for the drawing stuff we do here. So if you plan on working on these, I would just bookmark this site. It's quite handy. Alright, so what we're going to do... Telemarketer. We're going to do something similar with the mask here. Oh, huh, that's weird. Ah, thought that's what I did. Whoops. Okay, hold on. I put the colors on the head on the wrong layer again. Wouldn't be an art stream if I didn't do that at least once today. Put it on the palette layer. Okay, that'll be easy to cut and paste. Oh, and the colors too. Ah, amateur. When you see me toggling the palette, all the colors that I just did, I put on the palette layer instead of on the main layer. That's not what we want. Let's see. Zoom out. I'm just going to copy paste. Fortunately, that's not a big deal. I'm just going to merge it with the lower one. Dragon Nest, the trumpet. Oh, that's coming from the track. That was somber tone. I should put more trumpet in my BGM tracks. Yeah, the trumpet is very, very audible in that one. I was back before I learned how to balance my mixing a little bit, so it is... The track volume on that one, in general, is kind of louder than others, but you definitely hear the trumpet when it happens. Alright, there we go. Let's try and avoid working on the wrong layer. So what we want to do is kind of similar to what we did for the first form. We're going to give this one a mask. And I just noticed that Ninetales doesn't have different colored inner ear parts. That's interesting. It's okay, we'll leave it for now. Instead, I want to probably take the yellow and use it to highlight the paws like we did in the original. Make it look like this thing's wearing kind of like gloves, sort of like we did on the first form. So what we need is we need to grab that lower tone and we'll put that on the palette. We can minimize this one now. To that end, we'll go ahead and we'll start adjusting things that we're going to change now that we have the color scheme in there. So we'll do the yellow highlights on the paws. We'll only be able to see the hands. And I guess, again, assuming this is the hind leg that was kind of behind the body, I can't think of anything else that this section would be right here. I guess we'll go yellow. Oh, I need 3 colors, don't I? What did I do for the original? I used a light tone. That's a 3rd shade. Okay, whoops. Need to grab that. There we go. As far as I can tell, there isn't a hard and fast rule about creating unique shades that aren't in the original, as long as it makes sense. So we're going to do that. Red Dragon says, oh, Twitch has their own alerts now. Time to play with them. Alerts for in-stream stuff, or like alerts for follows and other things? I do all my stuff in Elements, so I usually don't see that. Okay, let's add the darker shades in here, like so. Oh, whoops. This intersection is not supposed to be yellow. That's not a leg. That's the body. And that was the dark tone. Needs to go over here. Our dragon says, followers, subs, and others. I don't do many third party. I don't like too many third party having my details. That makes sense. I need to do some overhaul work on my stream setup. I have some resources that one of my peers gave me that I need to look into. When I get one of these spare minutes, I need to sort of centralize my setup a little bit to make it more efficient. I'll look into that one of these days. Part of it is the sources and hierarchy of things in OBS. Apparently there's a way to kind of organize everything so that if you have a weird sound setup like mine where you're constantly having to switch sound sources around and all that, makes it a lot easier. That would be nice, because changing all of my sound settings is kind of a nightmare. Alright, now let's get to the harder part. How to how to line out the tails. Our dragon says resources are good. I've been looking at it all for past the weekend. I see. You're looking at kind of updating your stream setup. That's good. You're looking to kind of put more time into streaming in general going forward. All right, this is going to be a little bit of an experiment. Like we talked about before, the Infinite Fusion Sprites that have to be reviewed and approved by the Discord and community over there. there are some hard and fast rules for the lighting. We've talked about the light sources and the shading. And this is something I wanted to mention for you, Red Dragon, in case you're thinking about working on Infinite Fusion Sprites and potentially submitting them for review. Uh, just be aware of some of the rules in formatting. Our light sources have to be coming from the upper left. That's consistent across all the Pokemon gens when they draw and shade their sprites. Thus, the shading, again, is going to be extremely challenging, but same for the line art. The color tones that we're putting in here has got to assume the light is hitting them from the top. And so for the tails, this is the way I wanted to do it. They're basically going to alternate blue and pink. And I'll worry about the darker sections once we get further on, because I have to think about the light sources for that. But the darkest tones need to be up here. The darkest tones on the line art, rather. And if I'm going to get dinged for anything in the review, it's going to be this, because it's very unusual patterning, and I'm still kind of getting back into drawing sprites for the game. So, fortunately, people in the Discord are pretty cool. Like, they don't just come right out and blast your work. They're pretty constructive, which I appreciate. Granted, I'm not really that sensitive when it comes to my art. If someone just flat out blasted me for not doing something properly, then I'm just gonna learn and fix it. Okay, now down here, I've got to be a little bit careful. No, this last one's going to be pink. This whole section, you can see my cursor sort of going around here. That I got to think a little bit about. I'm thinking the lines are going to need to come further in on these than I have now, but the closer they get to the body and kind of away from the light source, part of it is going to need to be the darkest color, black. But for the rest, you got to think of the depth, and that is going to be the toughest thing. So you got to think of which one of these are on top of another, and which one's going to have the main color shade. Since I layered these, they're all kind of layered behind each other, if that makes sense. So like for this one is in front of the pink. And this one is in front of the blue, same down here. No, this one is behind the pink one too. Okay, yeah, like I said, I'm gonna have to probably experiment around with that a little. But coloring wise, now we can flat fill these. Ooh, I think I actually dropped the wrong color in for the pink. The blue is okay. The pink is not the right shade. It needs to be one darker, I think. Yeah. We want this color right here. It's almost purple looking color for the darkest. We'll just do this. There we go. Now the interesting part. We want to drop the light tones on every tail with its respective color. Same down there. Oh, balls. I'm on the wrong layer again. I just realized we're jumping back and forth to the palette layer. Just like before, everything is on the palette layer. Well, at least the tails and part of the paws. Yeah. At least for these types of sprites, it's not the end of the world, as annoying as it is, because I can just pull everything off of that layer and merge it. But I should probably learn how layer locking works so that doesn't happen as often. There we go. Okay, we can drop in the shading for the two tails in the front. And we're going to have to copy the same pattern. Whoop, that's the wrong one. Up here. And this is probably the toughest part of this whole exercise, is looking at the shading pattern for the tails and matching it up with the light source. Let's do the pink ones first. So if the light is coming down from this direction, there's going to be a section like this. As they kind of bunch up, I am really having to kind of guess and trial and error the shading for this, since it's unique to this particular design. It's not following the shading for the original, and I'm gonna probably have to get some feedback from the pros as far as whether or not I need to fix some of the angles. Likewise for this one, I think we're gonna go like that. That's not bad for a first attempt. Well, this section, I remember one thing that someone told me once when I was working on these. They made it a particular point to mention that wherever you have the shadows touching, usually, in a lot of cases, not all, but a lot of cases, that denotes the black coloring. So let's see if we can follow that a bit. That was some comments pointed out on one of the ones I submitted. And then maybe we do this, keeping in line with that and where the light falls. Okay, let's save that. And we're going to do the same sort of shading style for the hair. Hair is not too difficult to shade. Just have the lower parts be a little more shadowed, and then the kind of floofy part is lighter. Okay, now I'm just gonna play around with the shading a little bit and where it falls. Let me try and soften this a little bit. Same thing up here. Okay, zoom out and we'll take a look. Dragon says looking good. Oh, thanks. Getting back to the swing of things a little bit. Okay, let's add some darker color down here. I'm a little bit worried that there's too much black outlines, but the way I've done the shadows might be okay. So if we look at the original. That is interesting. The Gen 5 style doesn't necessarily follow that particular methodology. It's a little different. In fact, because there's no more dithering on the tails, I think I'm just going to take it out of here. Yeah, I think I like that a little bit better. It'd be one thing if we tried to duplicate a dithering effect on the tails, but I'm really not too good at that style of shading yet. So rather than do that, we'll just keep it consistent. Be like flat tones and shading. Now the question is, if we save a temp version of this sprite and do a color tone check, we can see how many overall color tone shades we've got. And if we have anything that is unusual, it'll show up when we do that. So let's check that first. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Red Dragon, there's a site that I've shown off here before that basically takes an image and it counts every unique color tone, and it's a way to find redundant ones. If some are too close together, it usually means the levels are slightly off. So you just need to track them down and isolate them, because you don't want like 30 different color shades. They'll ding you for that for sure. This one's going to be Rose Tails. Sounds like a Sonic OC. The horror. Okay. Pixel color counter, that's what it's called. Okay, 19 unique colors. That is a little high. And let's see, what's redundant? One of the green midtones is redundant, and the black is redundant. So there's two redundant shades there I can see, and possibly one of the blues. No, that's the outline. That's the outline and the shading. The blues are okay. But the greens, there's some stray greens, and the black tones are off a level. Okay. We could probably get this down to 17. So to that end, the easiest way to do that is to just go fill all the similar sections, make sure they're the same color. So my guess is the original black tones from the reference sprite were off by just a hair from the color I was using here. That's easy enough to fix. We just have to go through each section and fill down the colors with the black shade that we want to be uniform. In fact, it's probably all the ones that are part of the original body. The ones we drew ourselves, we know are the same tone because we selected the color ourselves. Okay. Now for the redundant shade of green, let's see. It might be this part right here. Not really redundant though. How much did it say we've got? Okay, it's the darkest shade of green in certain spots. That one's not redundant. It's just very close. Okay. Might be able to adjust a couple things. No, that makes it too dark. Okay. Guess we can leave that for now. It's okay. Technically, there's 18 shades. It counts the empty colors as one type of white shade, technically. So really, we should be down to 17 in total. So let's resave this and see if we isolated the black tone that was duplicated here. Save a new copy. Upload a new one. Still showing. Still showing that darkest tone duplicated. Why is that? $218 in one shade and $153 on another. That's weird. Let's see if we can figure out where that's coming from. So this is the shade we want. It's, I don't know what the value is. The lowest corner to get black. What I'm doing is I'm doing kind of a spot check on the levels. That's really strange. There shouldn't be that much. It's a different color. There aren't even a lot of the black outline pixels to begin with. If I can't find it immediately, I'll work on that offline. I know this is probably one of the most boring parts of the process, trying to figure out where all the duplicate shades are. Unless it's... Oh, it can't be counting everything here. But I'm going to clear this just to make... Nope. It's not. Or Dragon says, I think the black on the tail looks weird. Are you talking about... like these sections here? I don't know if you can see my cursor, but these parts here, as it gets closer to the body, yeah, that is gonna need to be there because of the way the shadowing works. Basically, what I've done, because someone told me specifically this is how people do it. When you have the shading, anywhere that's bounded by shadows is supposed to be black normally. And as you get closer and away from the light source, which again is up here, you have these darker parts. It's a little bit different compared to the original, because the original has a different style of shading and coloring than what I'm doing. So this format's a little different than what people are doing now. So we'll have to see. The best thing to do would be to get feedback and see what the pros think. As far as how many colors you're allowed, there's no limit, but you want as few shades as possible of unique colors. Or Dragoness can use a darker color of the tail. You could. The problem is I'm supposed to be following the original palette with a couple exceptions like the yellows. So the original palette only has 3 different colors for each of the flower parts that come from Roserade. There's the lightest shade, there's the shadow, and there's the darkest shade. Where are you? This is where that color comes from. You have the darkest shade here, you have the shadow in here, and then you have the lightest color. So, as much as possible, when you're doing these sprites, you have to be following the original color palette, and you can't deviate a ton from it, or you'll get dinged for that as well. So I don't know if I'm going to get dinged for the darker yellow since it's not on the original, but it's in an area that's shaded, which is why I did that. There are spots where that darker yellow needs to be a darker color. And the original doesn't have that. Even in the quote-unquote shadowed areas, it's just solid yellow. So they might tell me to take it out. I don't know. But kind of like we see here on Roserade, the darkest sections, wherever the shadowing is black. This is kind of closer to the format I'm talking about, which I think they said is mostly Gen 5. Mostly. And the Ninetales reference sprite doesn't do that exactly. But anyway, the short answer to the question is if I create another darker shade, it's going to deviate from the original palette. And like, I'm not supposed to be able to do that a lot. So it's a bit of a mix of the kind of standardized format and the original. So I might have to think a little bit about maybe backing off some of the shading to get less of the black outlines there, but really it's going to come down to the accuracy of the shading on the tails. That's why I mentioned that's the toughest part. Okay, let's zoom out a little bit. Hide the palette and we'll go ahead and save. I'm looking at the layering and the patterning of the different shades on the tail. It's meant to kind of look like they're alternating color, just like you'd see on like flower petals. Problem is there's an odd number of them. I think it's okay. We'll see. Again, I'll most likely need some feedback for this one. Hey, first time chat from Angelicus. Angelicus? Is that how you say your name? Angelixis? Says, looks good. Hey, thanks. Welcome to the drawing stream. We're working on Infinite Fusion Sprites today. Ah, gotcha, without the X. But welcome. We just finished working on, for the moment, this is a fusion of Roserade and Ninetales. Dragon says remove a tail, see if anyone notices. Oh, I guarantee someone would notice. If I put like 8 of them here, they're going to say, wait a minute, you're missing one. Rejected. Go back and try again. Here, let's put up the first form for comparison. Oop, no, you stay there. Roser picks down here. Scale's interesting now that I look at it. I'm using the original sprites, so I didn't change the actual scale, but This one looks comparatively bigger. I guess we'll see if that causes any problems later. But base form, Roserade head, Vulpix body, and then the evolved form, Roserade head, and Ninetales body, hence the same color paletting. Angelica says that's cute. Oh, thanks. To tell you the truth, since you're new, just tuning in today, this particular style is not normally in my wheelhouse. You do have a point, Red Dragon. The bottom one doesn't have the black lines on the tails. I did that one before I got a bunch of the feedback on something I'd submitted a little bit later. So you're right. I'm going to have to make that consistent. So I might have to go back and fix it later. Thanks for pointing that out. They're either going to tell me to put the black lines on the first form or reduce the amount of black lines on the second. One of those two things is going to happen. And I don't know exactly. I might have to put black lines on the bottom one. We'll see. I will figure that out too, but you're right. It does need to be consistent, so I got to think about that. But what I was going to say was, for Angelica tuning in, these kind of adorable sprites are not really in my wheelhouse for stuff I've done for the game. Normally, where are you? Let's hide these. Oh, where'd I put it? Normally, I do stuff like this. This good old Kekgar. My specialty is kind of the nightmare fuel Pokemon, especially since my favorite type is Bug. So this one was approved a while back. I haven't run into it in my playthrough of Infinite Fusion yet, which we also do here on stream. We're taking a break at the moment, but we'll be coming back for the Johto arc at some point in the near future. But we have things like Kekgar or this is Pinturn and Pinia. Oh boy, these are all layered. This is Pinsir and Cacnea, Pinsir, Cacturn. Lots of teeth. Pinsir ones are fun. This series is also in the game. I'm not going to go through all of them. I don't want to just sit here and show off all the stuff I've done. But the last one in a series that... Well, I'll show all three of them. Then we'll talk about something else. I did the Pidgey series. Where are you? Pidgey and Pinsir. Pinsir head, Pidgey body. I had to think for a second. Pinsir head, Pidgeotto body. Here, I'll hide this one. And Pinsir head, Pidgeot body. There we go. It's the big boy by himself. That was a fun one to work on. A lot of work. Oh boy, was that a lot of work. Shading on the wings and trying to duplicate the dithering. Her drink says demon, burn it. Oh, it's just a little friend. Full of teeth. But yeah, the ones I've shown off here, again, I'm not going to go through them all. I've done a handful for the game. But they're in the game proper now. They've been approved by the community Discord. And there's a couple other ones I haven't shown off that are in there as well. Angelica says just a little spooky. A little bit. So let's see. I'm going to take Rose Tails and move it up here. Before we call this one completely finished, again, I'm going to have to think about the shading, so I'm going to leave this one in my work in progress folder. Red Dragon says, I wonder what mine's going to turn out like. Well, I guess we'll just have to wait and see. I would say when you're learning to kind of draw in this style, start simple. A good idea would be to start simple instead of going for something really complex. Otherwise, it's going to drive you nuts. But also, if you want to figure out a good place to start, unless you have like a favorite combination of Pokemon, check the Fusion Dex site to see if people have already done a custom. There's nothing that keeps you from doing one of your own. But a lot of the ones you see me working on here are ones that haven't been created by the community yet. And so I recommend checking the Fusion Dex site. But you can start wherever you want. But yeah, Charmander and something else probably give you a good kind of simple one to start with. And then as you get kind of used to the format and working up through things, you'll be able to kind of get more complex. I'm definitely not a pro with it yet. So I got to put the other work in progress one here. Scyther Kyurem. There's another one that I need to think a little bit about the shading before I submit this one. And then start thinking about the next form. It's a very, very grumpy looking Pokemon. Alright. Let us get ready to move on to another one. I might have to grab some more assets, because I honestly thought it was going to take me the entire stream just to do that one. Let me pull up my reference folder and see if I had anything hanging out. Oh, there is one that I keep coming back to and slowly chipping away at, that's proving to be rather difficult. One of the first fusions I ever tried to draw, that I have drawn, I don't know if I did this on stream, I might have, but it was at a different scale, so I couldn't use it, so I basically drew it over again. It is, oh boy, where did I even put this thing? Down here? There it is. It is Sunflora and Parasect, which was one of the first fusions I ever got in my playthrough of Infinite Fusion. Sunflora and Parasect. This one is got a lot more unique stuff drawn for it, which is why it's been taking me so long to figure out. I definitely need to fix the shading on this one. I'm just showing you folks just so you could see one thing I was working on. I basically come back to this one every once in a while and try and tweak it some more. I think I might need to make the vines a little bit thicker and work with the shading, kind of winding around like in these sections. Again, this one's very much a work in progress. I think the body is okay, but the flowers aren't finished yet. I just have the color assignment for the line art and the shading done, and I've been contemplating how I want to adjust it. So all the shading on the flowers isn't done, and for the vines, I think the vines might need to be, again, thicker and maybe a bit more elasticy with the shading. So yeah, we'll see. This one's been on the back burner for a bit, but I need to finish it eventually. Oh, what else? I meant to actually go see if I have anything in my reference folder I want to start. Oh, I wanted to do a Sharpedo fusion. That's right. Sharpedo is one of my favorites from that gen. One thing that I will be doing, I mentioned it before, I don't know if you probably saw it in the Discord, Red Dragon, but when I start my playthrough of Infinite Fusion back up when we go into Johto, the rule for the playthrough is going to be only types with Dragon. Kanto was only types with Bug, so we're switching it around and only Dragon types, or Dragon mixed types for the second playthrough. Or second half, I guess. But I was going to go see what kind of Sharpedo fusions they've got in the game already. Specifically ones that are Dragon based. So what about... let's see, I do have a Kingdra in my playthrough, but it's currently fused with something else. About Kingdra and Sharpedo. Oh yeah, there is a custom for that one. Oh no, that's Water Dark. The Water Dragon one does not. Okay. The only one we'd be able to use in the playthrough is the Water Dragon version. That one is funky. The randomly generated one. Huh. It almost works. If it wasn't for the weird anti-aliasing, it'd be pretty passable as a sprite in game. I also have a Garchomp. What about Garchomp and Sharpedo? Oh yeah, I forgot you were doing your own playthrough of Infinite Fusion, Red Dragon. Where did you leave off? Were you in the beginning still? Whoa. So that is Garchomp head, Sharpedo body. That is definitely a custom sprite. That's really funky. It's like a big hammerhead shark. That makes sense. There's a custom sprite for the inverse too. Water ground. Oh wow, there's a really crazy. What is that? There's a variant for the Dragon Dark version. I don't know what it is, but it's really cool looking. Looks like a big shark-shaped ship. Say that 5 times fast. With like a shark dragon riding on it. Wow. From Triceratops. That's awesome. I can't top that. I see. You might restart for Mondays. Red Dragon. That makes sense. Okay. I'll have to dig around more for some possibilities with Sharpedo, since that one hasn't been in the game that long. Let's see. I could take a request. If you folks have a combination, and I can look it up to see if there's already a custom sprite for it that you want me to try and start working on today, then I have done requests in the past. In fact, I'm going to go refill my water bottle. If you folks have any ideas that you want me to attempt for a fusion, let me know. Like, put it in the chat and I can look it up to see, or you can go to the Fusion Next site yourself to look and see. The Dragon says Mewtwo and Charmander. That's an interesting one. I can look it up right now before I go get some water. I gotta imagine that one's been done already. Oh, this is a good one. You should look it up on the site. Red Dragon. It's just a cute little guy. It has a second tier. Yeah, I'm gonna assume, is it the same person? Nope. The second tier evolution with Charmeleon also has a custom. And the Charizard version also does. Has several, in fact. Apparently that one's pretty popular. Oh, yeah, I'll link the Fusion Dex site here, and you can take a look while I go and grab a drink. Here, I'll link you to the Finder, same page. One sec. There you go. Yeah, if you find a combination that doesn't have a custom sprite, we'll take a look. I can go grab the assets and start working on it right here. But for the moment, I'm going to go refill my water bottle. I will be back in 1 minute. All right. I have retrieved my water. I think what I will do, let's do kind of a research session. Let's go. Oh Lord. It's a raid from Banani and pals. Hey, what's up, folks? Welcome to the stream. We are in the process of figuring out what to draw next. What's up, Snake? And we got a small Raku redeem from Banani. Let me give you a shout out first. How did your stream go? I'm assuming art. Hopefully the art is going well. while we're figuring out what we're gonna do, folks, I'll show you what we worked on so far today. Froggy says, "What up? Hey, Froggy, how's it going, my dude?" Art, yes, art. Hopefully there was much art. We're doing Pokemon Infinite Fusion Sprites drawings today, and we just finished working on one, and we're about to figure out what we're gonna do next. And the one we drew today was this one. A fusion of Roserade and Ninetales. Oh, a drop a beat redeem. We can definitely do that. I was telling the chat to consider some suggestions for what we do next, but before we even do that, let me pause the BGM. And we will drop a beat for Sir Froggy of the Soggies. Red Dragon asks, how do you know if they aren't done? When you look up a fusion on the site that I linked, Red Dragon, if you don't see a fusion with someone's name, if it just says, let's see, where's an example? One sec, folks. Let me pull up an example for Red Dragon, kind of explain. If it says Japeel Fusion Generator for the sprite, that means it's a automatic generated one using the kind of combination algorithm. It's not a custom drawn one by a person. So if you don't see a yellow name, then it means the fusion doesn't have a custom hand drawn sprite for it. Snake says, I'm sure there's not that many Trubbish fusions. I don't even know if that one is in the game. Let me look. Oh yeah, there is. I'm sure there's some. Manny asks, can you fuse a Skitty with something? Is Skitty in the game? It is not. They're not up to that gen yet. Looks like. Charmander and Arceus. Okay, we'll take a look at that. What I want to do after we do the beat is we'll actually pull the site up and we'll look at some of the things that are out there together and find something so folks watching the stream can see what we're looking at. All right, got the volume off. Ooh, almost lost my mouse. Headphones. All right, let's come up with a beat. Celebrate the raid from Manani. Let's get it. All right. Let me turn the BGM back on. And let's see. What I thought I would do is just let me pull my browser up here. I did see Hecklejack says Lucario and Alolan Ninetales fusion. The Alolan Ninetales is also not in the game, I don't think. A lot of the Alolan forms aren't in the game proper yet. Here, let me see if I can pull up on stream here. What tab I got open? There it is. All right. So it's going to be covering me for a bit, but that's okay. What we're looking at here is the site for searching fusions. And let me get my keyboard here. I'll make it easier to type. As far as things that are in the game or not, to kind of illustrate what Red Dragon was asking about earlier, you said Charmander and Arceus. So this is what I was talking about for folks who have never seen this site before. We're looking up fusions that are in Pokemon Infinite Fusion proper as legitimate sprites. This one here for Fire Normal type Charmander plus Arceus is an auto-generated sprite. It's not a custom drawn one. So I'm going to go save that. Just for reference. It's called Charceus. Charceus. Question is, has anyone done the second form? Nope. About the third form. You would think someone would have done Charmander. Yeah, so someone's done the final form, but not the first and second. Snake says Trubbish combined with Genesect. What we can do is I can grab the assets for these, and I might not get to them all today, but I can definitely start working on them. Trubbish and Genesect. Oh, the expression for Trubbish is just precious. This is a little guy. Indeed. This one also does not have a custom sprite. Poison Steel, huh? This one is Trubisect. Interesting. So to explain to folks who jumped in with the raid and haven't seen me do this before, the way we go about creating the fusions, I'm going to open up another tab here. We go to this page, which I linked to the chat earlier, that has a big sprite repository of all the gen Pokemon by sprite and by 3D model, actually. At least a picture of the 3D model, going back to Gen 1. So what we can do is we'll grab Gen 5. Gen 5 has been working pretty well so far. For Charmander, what gen did Arceus show up? That was definitely not a game I played back in the day. I'll have to look. It's one of the legendaries, right? 4? 4. Yeah, this seems to be the one that people are using. Okay, grab that. Remy Andeli asks, does Gallades of Viper have one? Good question. Let's find out. So Viper's not in the game, so that would be a no. Both Viper and was it Zangoose, the mongoose one that goes with it, those two aren't in the game, but Gallade is. If you folks want to look around here, I can relink this in chat since this was before everyone jumped on. Here, put it in chat. If you want to look up whether or not your potential combination has a custom sprite, then check this site out. In the meantime, let's go for... Let's grab Trubbish. What? Trubbish, oh here. Gen 5. Grab you. And Genesect, right? Boy, what gen was that? 6? No, it could have been later than that. 5? Five. There we go. As far as, let's see, Gallade. So you're talking about Gallade and Tyrantrum, Remy? Whoa. Funky. So there's two combinations here for each of these fusions we're talking about, and I'm going by the order that you folks give them to me in chat. But there's the head and body, and then there's the inverse. So this one we're looking at here is Gallade Tyrantrum, the Gallade head, Tyrantrum body. The inverse is this one down here, which is the Tyrantrum head on the Gallade body. So there's two combination possibilities here. And the typing is different too, which denotes the difference in the fusions, because if they're dual type, they combine differently depending on what order you fuse them. Heckle Jacket said Lucario and Thunderous. I don't think those two are in the game. Lucario is for sure, but Thunderous is not. That's one of the deity looking ones, right? Yeah, they haven't added those. But Lucario was added somewhat recently. There's a decent amount in Lucario. But we'll stick with these for now. Remy says, I think Tyrantrum would be my pick. So let me grab that one. Tyrantrum head, Gallade body. That's the one that looks bipedal. Yep. Okay. I think I have. I might have pulled the Tyrantrum one already. Let me look. That one I'm going to have to get out of the Discord if it came from the gen that started in 3D. But we can grab Gallade, which is gen 4? Yep. Gen 5 sprite looks like that. And Tyrantrum, that's much later. All right, this is Gen 6. I got to grab that one from the Discord. Someone's made an older Gen sprite out of actual 2D instead of the 3D model. Snake says, what are the different types with Trubbish and Genesect? It's either going to be Trubbish, Genesect, or the reverse. I'll show you. Trubbish, Genesect. So the Trubbish head, Genesect body is Poison Steel, and the reverse, Genebish. That's a funny name. I like that. Genebish. Bug Poison. So your choices are Poison Steel or Bug Poison. We'll pick one. Let's. I'm tempted to do this one because I think it could result in something really unusual and funny. But we'll let Snake pick the combination. So we'll start at least Trubbish and Genesect. But what order do you want? And for the other ones that people have suggested, I've downloaded the assets. So in the future, we'll probably rotate those in, or I'll work on them offline, because they all sound really interesting. The Charmander Arceus one I think would be fun. Poison Steel. Got it. Okay. Very good. So we'll do it like this. Let me get my keyboard out of the way, and we will pull the assets together and start. Start creating more nightmares. So let me hide Rose Tails. Are not Sonic OC. And first we want Trubbish. It's a small sprite. Small, sort of. And we want Genesect. Oops. This one is going to be interesting putting together for sure. Hecklejack says Lucario and Chandelure fusion. Don't know if that's a thing. I would check on the site and see. Remy says throwaway robot. Science project has an idea. Yeah. This is gonna be an interesting one. So here's how the fusion rules work for folks, again, who haven't seen me do this from scratch. The head, which is usually the prominent features of the main fusion, determines the coloring, and then the body adapts to whatever that main color scheme is. So we're going to have Trubbish's head on Genesect's body in some capacity, but the color paletting is going to be matching what Trubbish is doing here. Remy says, why does Genesect's gun look like Newton? All you need to do is put the eye right there. Whoop. And it is true, Trubbish is pretty much just all head and or body, depending on how you look at it. One idea that I had is, again, this is a pretty interesting combination. one idea I had would be to take Genesect's arms and give it the kind of like garbage appendage things that Trubbish has, kind of like a scrapyard robot that's accumulating a bunch of junk, and then we adapt the face. They actually have kind of similar style of mouth, just the teeth are different. Snake says, well, since it's poison, what if you make his arms spewing out like oil? I was thinking either that or we have the gun. The gun spewing out some sort of pollutant. Okay, first let's do some edits on Genesect here. I want to reshape the head and give it kind of more of a Trubbish type shape. We'll delete this arm out. Whatever we end up doing, we won't be keeping that. Just make some room. Another thing we could do, which I just thought, it might make it a little easier. We could completely separate the gun part from the body and reshape it, and then actually, let's just cut and paste. Put it on a different layer. We can reposition this later if we reshape how the body looks. That might make it a lot easier. Snake says, "I love how it's an unusual fusion." Yeah, you picked an interesting one, my dude. It's definitely gonna be a challenge, but I'm up for the challenge. So what I'm going to try and do is draw in almost shaped like a garlic clove, or a bulb rather, a head of garlic. Again, trying to roughen the details. Give that kind of upside down U-shaped mouth. Oh, whoops, and didn't mean to put that on that layer. Folks who've been here since the start of the stream have seen me do that at least 4 times now. It's okay. Since we're trying to draw in the head shape anyway, it's not a super big deal, but we want to make sure we're operating on the right layer. Remy says, put the gun on the body, make Trubbish a tanker driver. Snake says, or you could have Trubbish growing out of an old Genesect. That is also an interesting idea. In fact, try not to work in 2 different spots at once. Let's see if we can roughen the details on the head first. Another thing I was thinking would be we adapt the big shooter gun things from the back into the arms, kind of like someone was mentioning up top. Remy was talking about like a Mega Man character. If we give it like garbage shooter arms, that's another possibility. We have a lot of options on how to kind of adapt the design details. That's what makes these fusions so interesting to work on. Or we could do kind of what people are saying and put like a big garbage cannon on the back. Kind of like the idea of the arms being some sort of apparatus for shooting garbage. To that end, we're going to delete the arms too. This thing's going to be all torso and legs. And we'll rough the details in so it's not just empty space. Let me ask, why do you give it Eevee ears? Well, I'm trying to duplicate these things that Trubbish has. It has ears. Let's see, shading this thing is going to be a lot of fun. Trubbish is technically a cat. Isn't it just a sentient ball of garbage? I don't know anything about this Pokemon. Always seemed like a weird entry. I do think the eyes aren't far enough apart though. Let's placeholder the eyes for now. And then fix the mouth. Try and stay as close to the model as possible. And its teeth. I don't know how we're going to do its teeth. Kind of looks like rabbit teeth. They're uneven, right? It has kind of like jagged teeth. Oh, we got to hydrate from snake. I think I just filled up my water bottle. I see we also have a Raku Faktu from Red Dragon. Second one of the evening. Alright. Let me pull up the list and see if I can come up with something, since I had to kind of come up with the last one. Last one was a story from the kitchen, or a fact from the kitchen, rather. looking at the list of facts. For folks again who haven't seen that redeem before, whenever someone redeems the fact, I have to come up with a true fact and or a lore fact about the homeworld that I come from for the redeem. Okay, I have one that some folks might know, but some of the newer folks might not, so it's going to go on the list. The true fact is, I've only been to 2 foreign countries. I live in the States, for folks who might not know. I've only been to 2 foreign countries now to date. And this is actually an update as of last year, and this year technically. But I've only been to 2 foreign countries, those being Japan and Canada. I've lived near other ones in my time, right next to some other ones, in fact. But those are the only 2 I've been to, despite living next to other foreign countries. So it's kind of like a hybrid fact. And Snake says, I definitely know you've been to Japan and Canada. Yep, so far those are the only 2 on the list. Snake says, oh, so you lived in Texas before? Not necessarily. Could have been California. Or it could have been Florida. You may never know. Unless that's a fact. I really need to come up with another series for that redeem and or retire that redeem for a bit. I've told you folks a lot about me. Snake says, I mean, you don't seem like a Florida man. Thank you. But maybe that's just what I want you to think, Snake. Alright, let's see what we can do here. I did like the idea, kind of a combination of what several people have said. Oh, I did see her. Dragon says, not the UK. I have not been to Europe. Might go eventually. We'll see. I knew some people who lived over there. But they're not there now, so it's not like I have anybody I know to visit. Alright. We're developing some ideas here. Who's seen the old 80s anime movie Akira? What if we did something like that, but with garbage? Dragon says, you know me. I say not to visit UK is bad. Yeah, I know that's your turf, your Red Dragon. I don't know. One thing I have heard is I knew some people who went over to the UK recently for like a trip from the States, and they said there was a lot of cool spots, but the food wasn't great. That is kind of like the one thing I've heard the most from people who've gone to like the UK area, is that the food's not great. Yeah, you could go visit France too, although I've heard people in Paris specifically are really snooty if they find out you're from America. That is another thing some folks I know who've been there have said. I've heard people in Italy can be pretty cool, but the French can be kind of snooty. I don't speak a lick of French, so that would be rough. I have myself an idea as we're developing this large trash boy for the head. I'm gonna give him a robot eye as a holdover from Genesect's design elements here. Kind of got the bug eyes with the stuff like that, but maybe we can even go like an optical sight eye. And the left one will be normal. Kind of looks like a demonic rabbit, robot rabbit. Red Dragon says, but you're an alien, not USA. Well, that's true, but if I have to claim a nationality, then I have to claim America. I can't say homeworld. I'm sure no one's going to know what that means over there. But I don't know. Call me selfish, but I do want to go back to Japan again soon. There's so much that I have not seen that I don't foresee myself getting bored of Japan anytime soon. But we'll see. Snake says, I mean, on the bright side, when you claim America, you immediately get a gun. Not overseas. Her dragon says, greedy, I haven't been once yet. I know, I'm not trying to rub it in your faces. I had a lucky confluence of events that allowed me to go this year, even though I went last year. I don't know if I'll be able to go next year, but we'll see. Here's an idea I had for the sprite here. For the garbage arms. Since I know Trubbish has these kind of debris stuff and it's hand appendages. What if we had debris sticking out of the arms in different spots? And I don't mean like spikes per se, but just random objects. Like pieces of metal. Maybe we change the shapes like that. I'm just roughing them in for now, but kind of looks like this thing has been sweeping up a bunch of garbage and trash. I think that's kind of a fun idea. Yeah, I can try and do cardboard tubes. We'll see. It's probably going to have to be a little more simplified since we're not working at super high resolution. All right. Let's keep adding some detail here. Snake says, I'm loving how this looks. Are you giving him one of Genesect's eyes? Sort of. So this thing that you could see right here, originally what I was trying to do, if we look at the reference for Genesect, zoom in here, it has these kind of bug-like textured eyes here. So I was trying to do something like that, but I also thought one thing I could do is give it like a round, like a camera eye. So this is just an example, but something like this. Yeah, exactly, like a targeting eye. It would be easier to convey with color and shading. We'll leave it like that, and I can always fix it when I eventually get to color. Remy says, make the normal eye look worried like Genesect is taking back over the Trubbish. So like a slightly... a little hard to see because of the transparent background, but slightly worried expression. Here, let me do this. This will make it easier to see. Just this is a base color fill. I'm gonna have to go in there and actually deal with the shading and stuff eventually. But like what we could do, like Snake and Red Dragon were saying, if we go and grab the base color here, something like that, and then we add some shading and highlights eventually to make it look like it's actually 3D with some color and texture highlighting on it. I do see that Trubbish has this sort of seam thing running down its head. I think it's supposed to be kind of like a crease from like a bag. I could thin that out a bit. Ultimately, all the stuff's not going to be black. It's going to be shaded appropriately. Remy says now it just looks like a cricket. Think so? Just the head? The head is a little large, but I kind of like the idea that Trubbish's head kind of transplanted on the body and then like a parasite invaded the body and is taking over like the limbs and whatnot. Kind of like a head crab from the Half-Lifes. Yeah, exactly, Snake. Like a hermit crab. So let's take a look at the rest of the limbs. See if there's any other detail to kind of add or rough in for now. And then I think we're going to wrap up shortly here. I'll have to think. I could scale the head down, but I'd have to basically redraw it. I can't just transform and scale it without it really distorting the pixels because we're working at such a low resolution. Ooh, here's another idea. Let's see if I remember. We could have one of the arms, maybe not holding or brandishing, but wrapped around like a broken version of the cannon. So where'd I put that? Up here? Here, let's move you. We could have like a broken version of the cannon, not necessarily from this particular Pokemon, but maybe it ripped off the cannon of another Genesect and it's just sort of carrying it around. This is not the way it would be drawn, but have it like wrapped around one of the arms so it's kind of holding what looks like a weapon that it took from another one. Basically making this thing an invasive species. I kind of like that idea. That would be considerably more difficult to do though, so we'll see. We could even have the cannon sort of flipped back pointing backwards from the back, but broken. Like the original, this is just a rough approximation. The original cannon was kind of snapped off when this thing took over the head, and it's broken and fell off. Again, the idea of a kind of scrapyard amalgamation of things is an interesting idea, and I think it could definitely work. What I'm doing is I'm just cleaning up the area around the debris. I think I'll have to probably mess around with the color and shading. Shading on this thing is going to be fun. Alright, let's make the coloring a little bit consistent. We'll fill down the color to match the base palette for Trubbish on the limbs. Again, for consistency. And I don't know what I'm going to do with the debris. I'm probably have to make that an assortment of colors, or maybe match the original, because it kind of looks like little, not rocks, but little brightly colored pieces of debris that are in its arms. These things right here. I don't know what that's supposed to be, since I've never seen like a 3D model of Trubbish. But I kind of like the idea for the fusion that whatever those things are, maybe they crystallized, they grew out, so they're actual projections. So all these would be different colors, like specifically pink and blue. I have to think about that, but for now, let's fill down the base color of the arms, the garbage arms. There we go. I guess one thing I'll have to look at next would be adapting the rest of the Genesect color palette. The body's not going to be purple, it's going to be green. It's going to need to match the head, and then adding the detail on the arms. Could also go really kind of wacky with it and take off the legs and just have it be like a garbage puddle. But I kind of like the idea that this thing is slowly taking over the robotic bug from the top. Definitely has personality. Alright, let's go ahead and save our progress. Again. And we will get ready to wrap up. Let me see who is online from my list that we can go and raid and share the likewise chill vibes that we got as a result of the raid here. Oh, I see Aaron Dwight is online. One of my fellow VTuber peers. They're playing Tales of Berseria. Tales game. Not one I've played. But we can go see how that's going. So let me do this. We will go ahead and pause the BGM. And we will go to outro. call that a drawing stream for today. Like queue up the raid. So thanks again for the folks who came and hung out. And shout out to Banani and friends for the raid. And much appreciated. Hope you folks found the discussion of Pokemon Fusions interesting. There will be more of this in the future. We're either going to pick up where we left off on the Pokemon here, or I'll work on them off stream and I'll have some results to show in the future. Because we don't always do sprite streams for drawing here. Kind of switch things up a little bit. But we will be back tomorrow, roughly the same time, unless I get a chance to start earlier. And we'll be jumping back into the world of Dyson Sphere program. Since we didn't get a chance to stream it last week, there's going to be a whole lot of neat new stuff for me to show off in that game. So if you feel like joining us on our journey to colonize all of space with giant factories, then feel free to stop on by. But that being said, once again, thanks for hanging out. Now let's go see how Aaron's doing in Tales of Berseria.